Well, mediators in Cairo made a renewed push for a Gaza ceasefire, but differences remained as fighting raged on Sunday between Israeli forces and Hamas militants. The Palestinian territory continues to be gripped by desperate food shortages, and the U.S. Vice President called for a proposed 6-week ceasefire deal to be accepted. Kamala Harris also criticized Israel over insufficient aid deliveries into Gaza.
The immense scale of suffering in Gaza, there must be an immediate ceasefire. For at least the next 6 weeks, which is what is currently on the table.
Kamala Harris's comments were the strongest to date by a U.S. administration official on Israel. A U.S. official said Israel had broadly accepted the deal, which would see a 6-week cessation of hostilities if Hamas agrees to release the most vulnerable hostages. Calling on Hamas to accept the deal, the vice president said it will get the hostages out and get a significant amount of aid in. She added Hamas claims it wants a ceasefire. Well, there's a deal on the table, and as we have said, Hamas needs to agree to that deal. Harris is due to meet with Benny Gantz, a centrist member of Israel's war cabinet, in Washington later today. The former Israeli military chief is a long-term rival of Netanyahu and will also meet White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan and Secretary of State Antony Blinken. An official from Netanyahu's far-right Likud party said Gantz's trip was planned without authorization from the Israeli leader. Speaking to the Associated Press, the official said Netanyahu had a tough talk with Gantz and told him the country has just one prime minister. Egyptian state-linked media reported Sunday that envoys from US, Qatar and Hamas arrived in Cairo. It marked the latest effort towards a 6-week truce, stepped up aid deliveries and the exchange of hostages for Palestinian prisoners. But sticking points remained, including a Hamas demand that Israeli forces entirely withdraw from the Gaza Strip after almost 5 months of devastating war. And Israel, which has so far announced no plans to join the Egypt talks, has demanded Hamas provides the country with a list of 130 remaining captives, including over 30 feared dead. The Cannes public broadcaster aired a recording of hostage Alan Shabriz calling for help during a battle between Israelis and Hamas militants holding him and 2 other captives. As per Israeli media, the audio was obtained from a GoPro camera mounted on a dog from the military's Orchids K9 unit. The unit was sent into the building where hostages Shamriz, Yotam Haamiz and Samar Talalka were held. The dog was killed by the Hamas terrorists during the battle. The camera was only recovered days later, after Israeli troops mistakenly killed the 3 escaped hostages in another area in Gaza City. Now, U.S. envoy Amos Hochstein's Beirut visit will continue diplomatic efforts aimed at de-escalating the conflict across the Lebanese-Israeli border and bringing some level of stability. The Iran-backed Lebanese group Hezbollah and Israel have locked horns in hostilities for months in parallel to the Gaza war. It has marked the worst conflict between the heavily armed adversaries since a 2006 war, fueling fears of an ever bigger confrontation. Despite the latest push to halt the fighting sparked by Hamas's October 7th attack on Israel, there was no let-up in Israeli bombing and urban combat in Gaza. Several airstrikes were reported in southern Gaza's Rafah and Han Yunis. Israel's military announced the death of 1 more soldier in Gaza, bringing the number of killed soldiers on ground operations to 246. In Rehovot, Israel, there were tears and ceremonial gunshots at the funeral of another soldier called Afik Terry. The Hamas media office reported intense tank shelling in northern Gaza, and the Israeli military said it hit about 50 targets, including underground terrorist infrastructure. For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.